What's going on, everyone? So, the Los Angeles Lakers could use a little bit of bench help, particularly in the scoring, self-creating department. I don't think it's like absolutely dire, right? Like, obviously, upgrade at the starting wing position, starting 3 and D. If you can get like a backup center, sure. But it would be nice to kind of have a guy that could come off the bench, give you, 15 a night, somewhere in that range, self-create, right? Not be so reliant on Luka, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James to kind of create for you. Now, that very well could be, Rui Hachimura off the bench, or Jake LaRavia if he can kind of step into that role. Maybe he's a guy that can come off the bench and kind of be your sixth man scoring option off the bench. Obviously, the starting unit is going to have plenty of scoring and offense, and I know a lot of people kind of look at that and go like, we have more than enough scoring, but again, it would be nice to have a guy that you can trust come off the bench, right? Guys get the night off. He can step in, play a big role for you on any given night as a starter. Those nights that he's cooking, he could even close for you, or just be that, again, that bucket getter, right? Be that guy that could be in contention for sixth man of the year and give you that offensive production off the bench, right? Because you need it, right? You don't want to be so overly reliant on LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves that basically everyone else is basically orbiting around them. Like, yes, a good majority of the time, you'll be okay to do that, right? But it would be nice to have guys that can, create for themselves, take guys off the dribble, apply pressure, right? Luka, he's kind of playing off ball, Austin Reeves playing, right? Like, get that guy in there that can kind of give you some production off the bench without just being like, okay, well, all we have is defense and all we have is guys that, Luka has to generate for, right? So, one guy that I've talked about in the past is Malik Monk. That I think, you could bring back Malik Monk. He's a guy that come off the bench, guy that could start for you in a pinch. Defensively, obviously, you would have those concerns with him, but he's a guy that could get buckets. He's a guy that could self-create, create a little bit for others, gives you another ball handler, another shot creator, right? Like, which doesn't hurt to have those kind of guys. He's a guy that can play off ball. He's had success playing off ball from his time with the Lakers to in Sacramento, playing alongside De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis and all these guys. So you can have moments where you give him the basketball, let him go to work, let him cook, and then you can have moments where he's playing within the scope of the offense. I wouldn't hate the idea of bringing in a Malik Monk if you could, but my big question was like, okay, but I'm not giving up I'm not doing all this crazy stuff to go and land him. Well, according to recent reports, Sacramento Kings just kind of want to get off of him. That they want to move off of him, probably because they have, now DeMar DeRozan, they now have Zach LaVine, they now have several guys that can fill in and play that role for them, that they don't really need him, right? He's kind of like a redundancy now, and they want to sign Russell Westbrook, which is crazy to think about, right? At this stage of his career, Russell Westbrook, they want to get off of Malik Monk in order to sign Russell Westbrook, but I get it. Right? One, I don't think Sacramento's going to be good regardless. I think Sacramento's a terrible team. And I just don't think that they're going to be any better. But a Russell Westbrook would give you better defense. He's really bought into that defensive role. Also, I think he would have the opportunity to kind of be more of himself with Sacramento, which might actually be good for Russell Westbrook, and it might actually be good for Sacramento. So it gives you that defensive guy that can be that point of attack. We've seen him really adapt into that role over the last few years. And then also, be a guy that could be that playmaker and stuff for Sacramento. So I get why Sacramento wants Russell Westbrook, right? Just another playmaker, another defender, another guy to put around, DeMar DeRozan and a Zach LaVine and kind of let him, be the chef out there. I just don't know why they want to just essentially move off of Malik Monk to get him. I mean, based on reports coming to Sacramento, they essentially are just like, here, take him, right? And the problem is, and if you could get him for cheap, right, it would kind of be hard to say no to that, right? Like, if you can just basically swap him in salaries, it'd be hard to say no to that. Couple things, though, right? Still has 2 more years on his deal. This year, he's making $18.7 million. So basically $19 million the Lakers would have to send out. On top of the $19 million, making $20.1 million, and then he's making $21.5 million in the final year. The Lakers do not want to carry salary going into that season, right? It's kind of what the Lakers have been doing. Now, I don't think I don't see the Lakers actually doing it. I could be wrong, but I've talked about, like, Austin Reeves is about to get 30 plus million. If Jake LaRavia is really good, you're probably not just going to let him walk. You're probably going to give him a new extension by that point. And then DeAndre Ayton, if DeAndre Ayton's really good for you, he's probably getting a new extension at that point, right? So it's like, I just don't know. You probably tap into most, if not all, of your cap space by that point, right? You still need to build out a roster and stuff like that to compete until 2027. Now, obviously, if they know Jokic or Giannis are coming, then sure, right? Like, you do whatever you can and you structure it however you have to. And if you got to kind of, tank a season in order to go and bring in Jokic, and now you're winning multiple championships, then you do so, right? But I just think realistically speaking, I think the Lakers are probably more likely than not going to tap into most of that cap space that they're trying to preserve. So I don't think Malik Monk would be that bad. But also that year, he'd be a almost $22 million expiring contract. And we've seen how valuable those are, right? Also, if I've talked about it, if you're going to do and end up landing a Giannis or Jokic, you're probably trading for them, right? Like, if the Milwaukee Bucks have any thought or inclination that Giannis is just going to walk when he's a free agent, they're not going to wait for that. They're going to trade him. Same thing with Nikola Jokic. If Denver thinks Jokic is going to walk and go sign with the Lakers, they're going to try to trade him. So you might need guys like Malik Monk in his contract to where it's like, hey, you'd only have one more year on him. It'd be a $21 million expiring contract. Here's some salary filler. It's not, a 4-year deal where you got to keep long-term salary. Here's an Austin Reeves. Here's a Dalton Connect. Here's whatever you're giving up in order to make that happen. And then now you're making the move. The other problem, right? Let's say the Lakers are like, you know what? We'll take Malik Monk. It's great. It works. No biggie. We'll figure out the cap situation later, right? Malik Monk could help us a lot, which I do. I do think he's a guy that could help a ton for a team that was not a great offensive bench last season. They definitely had their issues, and I think Malik Monk would give you a more balanced bench, right? I'd also look for sure then at that point, look to trade Gabe Vincent, other guys, because you go like Malik Monk at the 1, Marcus Smart at the 2, Jared Vanderbilt or Jake LaRavia at the 3, and then Jared Vanderbilt or Jake LaRavia at the 4, and then, a Jackson Hayes at the 5. And I just think you have much better production. Malik Monk gets to kind of go back to where he kind of created that hype in him and bet on himself and whatnot. So I do think that'd work. The problem is, again, Sacramento, they want to get off of him. They don't want to, because they can't take on a guy because they still can't sign Russell Westbrook. So the whole point is they essentially want a team just to kind of take him. I don't know if a team would necessarily take him. However, the Lakers could maybe pull something off to where, would a team take, say, because the problem is he's making, like I mentioned, 18, almost 19 million. So, I'm not going to trade Rui Hachimura for him. So, the only way I think it would make sense for the Lakers would be if you're doing a salary dump trade and you're getting back Malik Monk, right? I don't think Sacramento would actually give up an asset like a first or anything like that in the deal, right? But they do want to get off of Devin Carter. So could you maybe do something with a team like the Brooklyn Nets, right? But if I'm the Lakers, I'm not giving up my first or anything like that. It would have to make sense. But if you could get Malik Monk and clear salary, so like what if you did something like a Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, and Dalton Connect, right? And then, have a like Gabe Vincent going to Sacramento, right, with a Maxi Kleber, Dalton Connect, and maybe like a Devin Carter going to like a Brooklyn, right? Just using the Nets as an example. Going to like a Brooklyn, they already have to clear players and salary and all that other stuff. They're already going to have to figure that out, right? So maybe they just buy out Maxi Kleber or something like that, right? Now the Lakers would have sent out cleared basically 6 million, 7 million off their books, and they've cleared 2 roster spots, right? On top of adding in Malik Monk. So you add in Malik Monk, you clear 2 roster spots at salary that you'd have to fill. Now you could go and get guys like Al Horford, all these other guys that they're waiting around for Kuminga. It's like, hey, they're dragging their feet. Let's go. Let's do something, right? Or Nikola Jokic, if he ends up, or not Jokic, Nikola Vucevic. There we go. I wish Nikola Jokic got bought out. Nikola Vucevic, say he gets bought out, then now you can, bring him in and sign him, right? It would give the Lakers more flexibility. You're upgrading in that department for a bucket getter, shooter, scorer, all that stuff, right? And the problem is, like, what would the Nets want in order to do that? Now, I would imagine that the Nets want to, probably want a first in that deal. But if I'm the Lakers, I'm not giving up a first. And I don't know if Sacramento would do that. But maybe if they land Dalton Knecht and Devin Carter, it's like, hey, here's two young guys, right? Two young guys to add to your core and foundation. You're just getting them for free. Maybe that's enough for them to be willing to take on like a Maxi Kleber, right? Like I mentioned, where it's like, okay, like we get Dalton Knecht, who's a young guy. We get a, Devin Carter, who's a young guy, right, gives us some pieces for the future, which is what they want, just for being the middleman and facilitating the trade and buying out Maxi Kleber, or maybe we could flip Maxi Kleber to another team, or maybe you're working out a 4-team trade or something like that. Maybe you're even doing a deal where you're getting a piece from the Brooklyn Nets, right? I've talked about, right, like, what if you could get Cam? Well, I mean, if you're going to get Cam Thomas, I wouldn't want Malik Monk. To me, it'd be kind of one or the other. But like, maybe if this kind of draws out and they're not able to get Malik Monk, maybe you can, go get a Dayron or something like that. Like later on down the road, kind of do a 3-team trade. It just depends on like what teams are willing to work with. Maybe it's another team, right? Maybe Washington's willing to kind of work with you, right? A team that has cap space that kind of be willing to be the middleman. Can you find a team that likes Dalton Knecht and, is willing to kind of take on that guy in order to do so, or likes a Devin Carter and a Dalton Knecht that'd be willing to take those guys to do business? It's like, hey, here's the assets. Again, those are two young players that make a lot of sense for rebuilding teams. Maybe Lakers are giving up a second-round pick. I wouldn't mind giving up a second, but I'm not giving up my first or anything like that. But if you want a second-round pick and we land Malik Monk and we clear salary space in order to sign other guys, I'm on board with that, because again, now you still have basically your rotation, right? And because Maxi Kleber and Dalton Knecht, how much are they actually going to play? How much are they going to actually be in the rotation? You're getting an upgrade in Malik Monk as far as scoring wise goes. You still have your key kind of defensive pieces, right? And then on top of that, you clear salary space to where maybe you can bring in a Malcolm Brogdon, or bring in a DeAnthony Melton and a Al Horford. Be like, hey, Golden State's still dragging their feet. What happens if they don't figure it out, right? Like, how long are you willing to wait? We could sign you right now, right? Why don't you come on down? I mean, technically, the Lakers could even sign them to a little extra, right? Like, hey, we'll give each of you, instead of the vet minimum, we'll give you a little more than the vet minimum, right? Give you like, Jackson Hayes type of deal, right? Where you got a little extra bump, and it's like, okay, and then you still have $1.5 million or whatever to go and, sign a guy closer to, or at a buyout or closer to the actual start of the playoffs, right? So to me, that's the only way it would really make sense for Lakers, right? Because the Lakers wouldn't be able to just like trade straight up for him. Because again, I'm not trading Rui Hachimura to go get him, right? And you can't do like a Maxi Kleber and a Dalton Knecht. And even if you could do that, they need to clear a roster spot. Right? So they just want a team to take Malik Monk, but they don't want to give up an asset. So maybe the Lakers could kind of configure it to where, because Lakers have been looking for a salary dump trade regardless. So it's like, okay, well, what if you could do both? Right? Because I don't want to see the Lakers just do a salary dump trade just to do a salary dump trade. Right? I don't want to see them giving up assets or whatever, or just giving up Dalton Knecht and get nothing back. Right? Just do a salary dump trade. At least you're getting back Malik Monk. Right? At least you're getting back a guy who last season averaged 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. Right? So you get a guy that can give you buckets, that can score the basketball. He's still 27 years old. Right? He won't be 28 till after the trade deadline. Right? So I would personally, because you'd be getting him for essentially free. It'd be really hard not to want to go and acquire him, especially when you could use him. Like, he's a guy that actually makes sense. Like, if it made like 0 sense, I'd be like, leave him alone. And, last year, his 3-point shooting, I mean, he's never been a great 3-point shooter, right? His career 35% guy. But that year with the Lakers, he shot 39.1% on 6 attempts, right? So, he's playing alongside Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves. The quality of looks that he would get are going to be much better than what he's getting, in Sacramento, especially right now, right? So, and I mean, he's a guy that plays, right? Best ability is availability. Since being with the Lakers last stint, 67 games, 77 games, 72 games, and then 65 games, right? And he last season averaged 32 minutes per game, or 31.6 minutes per game, 14.4 field goal attempts per game, on 34% from the field, three-point percentage, 32.5%, which again isn't great on 6.6 attempts, 2-point range. On 8 attempts, 53.4%, EFG of 51.3%, free throw shooting 86.5% on 2.7 attempts, grabbed 4 rebounds, just under 6 assists, a steal, half a block, right? And then 17.2 points per game. But he's also a guy that has, the one playoff stint, right? In the one playoff stint was 19, 5 rebounds and 4 assists with the steal and half a block, right? In 29 minutes of action, he actually shot 33% from three-point range and averaged 19 points per game. So he's a guy that even shows up in the playoffs, right? So he's not a guy that's going to disappear come playoff time. So anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of Malik Monk? Do you think stay away from him even for free? Do you like the idea of getting Malik Monk if we can do a salary dump trade and kind of, bring in other pieces off of, free agency and stuff? Or do you think there's just not those guys out there? However you feel, either way, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.